conversation, conversing together. You know how it goes. We all talk, we all go through things, and we have experiences that we need, but we need one another to get to the next level. Right? So if you know, lady, I'm going to introduce these guys. This is Jerome. I only met him one time, but the dude is so dope, right? He left an impression on me. Yes, yes. Namaste. Right? So, and this is Lady of Sydney and Rain. This is Solid 12. This is Alicia, our host. Our host that's sitting here. She's talking, so okay, okay. That's all me. That's all me. These are two poets. Poetry. So we ready to get started? Ready to get started? Oh, I didn't introduce the people.
We also have joining us virtually Mr. Michael Edge, all the way from Delaware. And we have a woman who needs no introduction, but is absolutely amazing, Miss Zulinette. You cannot shorten that, you must call her Zulinette. I miss you. So our conversation this evening is about art appreciation. We're appreciating artists, right? What do artists do? We express. This is visual.
But outside of body painting, I also paint on canvas, and I just love seeing things change. I love seeing things grow. I love, like, I have a fascination with growth and change. Like, most people resist it, and I don't necessarily always like it, but I've learned how to deal with it creatively. I've learned how to deal with change creatively. So art is literally like life for me, like breath.
So to put you on the hot seat, just a little, since you mentioned expression.
I'm ready.
Thank you. Since you mentioned expressing, just going off of thinking, why do you think expression through art is important?
Why do I think expression through art is important? Honestly, for me, I think I didn't know how to actually say what I was feeling or thinking. It was difficult for me to do it that way. Through visual art.
Understanding that not everybody communicates the same way. Not everybody can use, finds it easy to just use their words to express how they're feeling or whatever their situation is. So, just being able to have that avenue of communication, and it helps you connect with others, and it even helps people even have like especially with your form of art, have like kind of like a glimpse of into like the window of what you're feeling. If that,
Just a moment. We're having some difficulties.
where are we?
Yeah, okay. So they're dealing with that, but we're gonna keep going. Once we can get the virtual attendance situated, then we'll transfer. So we're gonna go with you. You can either start with why is art important to you, or because I love the way your mind works. I know you can take this and just run with it. So why art is important to you, or an artist that you appreciate through a specific point in time.
Through a specific point in time. That's not fair.
That's a lot.
That's
Go. And Mr. Thunderclap, go.
Oh, you need this for online. I don't need this for the room.
I say just to take a little bit off your shoulders, how about just start with why the importance of
No, I can answer both.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Answer both.
To me, art is important specifically to me, and I'm only speaking from my point of view. Art is important to me because I've watched it transform and transmute people's lives. I've watched art literally save my best friend's life. I watched it pull me out of a depression. I've watched it keep me from being reckless. I've watched it ironically
keep me and several other people from having a horrible accident and several other events that I can't even count off the top. Art is important because it's not only expanded people's IQs and reversed some people's vantage points on racism, on sexism, on everything, like rape culture. I've watched people completely 180 their point of view on so many different topics because of art. I even got into like a really deep conversation, oddly enough, with a barber that I ran into. And like, we weren't even talking about art, but somehow we fell down a rabbit hole. And it was just like, next thing you know, like, yeah, yo, my kid, this, that, and the third. And like, somehow I'm like giving him like connections to like a therapist or something like that. I forgot like the whole conversation, but like, because of art, I was able to somehow help his son indirectly. You know, it's like, for me, that's the part that no one really sees, you know. So that I can continue on for hours and hours and possibly a few days, but that's just the short end of why I feel that art is important. The other, repeat the question so I can try to answer it as poignantly as possible.
An artist that you would appreciate at a specific point in time.
Still unfair. Artists that I appreciate specifically from a point in time. Because we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to take the easy way out. When I started doing poetry with a serious edge of, I care about this, I'm passionate about this, I'm going to pursue this to some degree. I went from being hated on by all the people who like I really admired to opening for my idol, Saul Williams.
Wow.
And Saul Williams, if you don't know, is an author. He's a poet. He's an actor, producer, musician, several other hats, so on and so forth. But I watched him in a movie. I didn't even know who he was, honestly. And before I found out who he actually was, I saw him in the movie K-Pax with Kevin Spacey. And like, his role was so convincing. I was like, yo, what? I'm that guy. Like, he's really interesting. And then, like, once I got into the poetry scene, I watched the movie Slam. And I was like, wait. Hold, or no?
We try to keep
I was like, hold up. That's the same guy from K-Pax?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, wait. So I'm like, I gotta know more about this guy. So like, I fell down this rabbit hole and I was just like obsessed with this stuff. And then people told me it started sounding like him, so I got mad at myself, yada, yada, yada. But then like, when I got to meet him in person, it was just like, this is real. Mm-hmm. And not like, oh, I was starstruck. It was just like, this is an artist who wanted to create, so he created. And he did everything he could to learn more to create. And I was like, I'm sitting here just thinking, oh, if I just read a couple of books and like write some poems that might get the attention of a few chicks and blah, blah, blah. Like at the time when I first started out, yes, it was very stupid and ignorant. But once I like got past that point and I met him, I was like, the hell with all the nonsense. Like this guy is actually a living being. Like I thought it was like something unobtainable, like, oh, he just, someone wrote a really good script. Mm-hmm. Like, no, he's a real person. I got to have like a real deep conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was so enthralled in the aspect of art. I was like, he's someone that like I had idolized at one point, but like now, like I just really admired his perspective of not just poetry, but like his acting skills. Like, mm-hmm. If you get a chance, watch him in a play versus him in a movie. He does not seem like the exact same human being. He seems like two totally different people. And that's just a small facet of like my appreciation of him as an artist. He said in one of the first interviews I remember watching him, he said he did a report when he was in like grade school on Paul Robeson. And Paul Robeson wore so many hats. He was an athlete, he was an author, he was a poet, he was a musician, he was a lawyer, he was like so many other things. Right. But he was great at everything he did. And Saul Williams was just like, he was so blown away by that. He was like, I want to be great at everything I do. So I'm going to do everything I can to be great at everything I learn individually. And whenever I decide to jump into that lane, that cylinder, that sphere of creativity, I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to be great at it. So that aspect, I've seen several hundreds of other artists do it. Some of them I know personally, some of them are here, some of them are virtual, some of them are just dead and, hundreds of years old. But like, regardless, that's the aspect. Like, now, like, when I come to do poetry, or like if I decide to do some creative point, I don't want to just, oh, well, we know Jerome's here, he's going to do a good job. Like, no, I'm here to leave a mark on someone's life. I've done it several times, and it's not something I brag about. It's something I'm just like, I'm blown away that I have that ability. And I hope that so many other people take that seriously with whatever they decide to do, painting, dancing, acting, whatever,
Right.
Sculpting, knitting, it doesn't matter what it is. If you decide to create, be the absolute best version of that for yourself and touch someone's life with it, period. Because I've seen people like get up and go on a slam and like, yeah, they win money and like, oh, they got to pay rent. That's excellent. I hope they continue to do great. But are they touching someone's life? That's the part where I really like. I remember I did not have the money to buy an album from this one poet, Ovius Maximus. But I went to the ATM and I pulled out $40. And I was like, I'm not supposed to be using this money, but I'm gonna find a way to replace this because I need this dude's album and I need a book. Like, I did that because he really left a mark on me. So stop being long-winded. That's my 2 minutes.
Like that, so the first thing that earlier in your conversation, you were having that conversation with the barber, and like you said, you weren't even generally talking about art. It kind of just
Happen.
transitioned and evolved into that. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, art doesn't necessarily have to be the topic of the conversation, but in some way, shape, or form, it always transitions into that way because it's all around us. Where everything we do, everything we involve ourselves in is created by someone or something. So it's all art. You know what I mean? Down to the conversation itself, the chairs you're sitting in, the room you're standing in. Somebody created it. You know what I'm saying? So it's all art.
I'm not gonna lie, the part that went through my mind, because I'm such a Disney mom, was Soul when they're in the barbershop.
That was a great conversation.
Exactly.
If everyone's seen the movie, that was a great conversation. Another thing I wanted to touch on was that you were talking about your transition from the beginning to now. It's relatable for me because from the beginning when we're just doing this to do it for whatever reason we're doing it. It's from like a entertainment aspect, right? Touch the stages, get the reactions and all that. How whatever superficial things that comes with. But after when you get to a point where you're starting to take it seriously and you really want to grow in it, it's less about the entertainment and more about the impact. And it's like, who am I helping? Who am I moving? Who am I encouraging? Who am I, inspiring? So, just those points resonated with me, so I felt like I needed to.
I'm not going to ask a question that I'm not going to be able to answer myself, so I will answer the question as well before passing it off to Zulinette. There's a musician by the name of Kika Matsui. She's a Japanese jazz instrumental player. So she'll travel places and she will use instruments, the culture of that area when making an album. And so this album that I found is called Deep Blue. And in all honesty, this helped my anger. I had anger issues. Yep. So as part of, an anger management process, I had to go to the library and just select something that spoke out to me. And I saw it. I was also really into Japanese anime, which I still watch today. So that's not a secret. But I just kind of like reached out to me. And so I took it home and I literally would go to sleep every night with that album on in my headphones. Music has a way of soothing you when words cannot. Your visual stimulus can cause you to like doubt what you're seeing. You can't trust your own words. You can't trust anybody else's words. So for me, instrumental music has the capability of taking me out of myself, taking me out of this world. Literally, Zulinet's painting is me in the deep blue. And so that was an artist that really helped me. So Ms. Zulinet, go ahead and unmute yourself so we can hear your beautiful voice.
Hi. Can y'all hear me
That
okay?
sounds like a mouse. That is a whole lion on screen. What are y'all doing?
What are y'all doing?
Y'all better crown this queen. She is a whole lioness.
How about now?
Can you try again?
This is a Boost commercial all over again. Where you at?
Oh,
Good.
Can y'all hear me okay now?
But
No?
no.
put it back up.
Now I can hear in my head is Leah.
And then
I-16 turn my phone. My headphones.
hi, Zulinet.
Oh, I heard my name. That's about it.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear us now and we can hear you?
Yes, I can hear you. Faintly, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can
We
hear
hear
you.
you.
Fantastic. Hi. If y'all asked something, I have no idea what it is. So if you want to hit me with that again, that'd be super. I know that your mouth is moving and I definitely can't hear you, love.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
That's what happens when we try to be extra fancy. I mean, we tried it. Okay. Go back to the original. We just gonna pass the mic, right? Miss Zulinet.
Hi.
I've been talking about how your painting has impacted me. A question that I have for you. Who is a painter that inspires you?
Nobody. I mean this in a not very arrogant way, but there's no painter that necessarily inspires me. I am very much more so inspired by the people around me. I am inspired by the conversations that I have with the humans that I know. I am inspired by words and what they mean and how they feel and how they taste in my mouth. I am more inspired by emotions and what it is that I experience more than I am by what it is that somebody else created, because I don't know them. So, and if I am inspired by the artwork, it's more about the feeling that it creates for me and more about the scenery that it creates in my own mind than it is about the actual piece. So there is no artist that inspires me. It's more so the people that I call family, that I call friends, that I call fellow poets in my community. That's where my inspiration comes from. And then for the artwork specifically, it comes from the emotional world that I live in every day. So yeah, nobody is my answer.
I mean, it sounds like a
Like I respect it. Like I respect the honesty, the candidness. Like you're inspired by life. Like you're inspired by yourself.
Yeah.
So, and that's not unfair to say. Like, right? If you can't inspire yourself, then that itself is an issue because you're going to be continuously looking for outside sources. And art comes from within. Like the truest version of art and the freedom of expression comes from your feelings, your thoughts, your reactions, your perspectives. So I love the honesty of your answers, Zulinette. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Thanks.
I like how, Juliet, I like how your answer wasn't to discredit any other artist or anyone else that either came before you, so to speak, or people that you just appreciate their craft or whatever. I like how you just it's like, yeah, nothing against y'all. I like what you're doing, but I'm dope and I'm being dope over here and I'm enjoying my dopeness. I'm sharing my dopeness, and more dope is gonna keep coming because I'm living. The world is giving me this. My experiences is giving me this. Me walking down the street is, enough for me to go home and boom, create something. Just from those moments.
I'm not actually that nice. There are some artists that came before me who should not have the fame that they do. But history has a way of celebrating white male mediocrity, and I'm not a fan of that. And I'm always going to critique that. So I definitely got some beef with the art and artists that came before me. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I do have some feelings about artists that came before me.
No, believe. I feel you. Because we don't want to see, I don't like talking smack about people, but you don't want to let the fame and the pedestals make them untouchable. You know what I'm saying? Because you're people just like everyone else who hasn't reached that level of fame or success. If I'm gonna put success in quotes because that's respected. Depending on who you are, how you see it. But it's like just because you're rich and traveling and all of that doesn't make you a better artist than anyone else. It doesn't make you more successful than anyone else. Being a creator. So I love your answer.
Thank you.
We would love to.
So we think about art in just the creative fashion. And for artists, we also know that there's school that's required of us to tell us what we can inherently do. I think that's what most of the school system now is. Here, memorize all of my information, regurgitate it back to me in the way I want you to, so I can give you this piece of paper, then tell you that you're overqualified, you need more certifications. The list goes on. But we can't deny that education plays a big role. And so we have educators with us. We have Michael Edge. Michael, if you can go ahead and unmute. And you're in Delaware. So what would you say is the important aspect of art in education?
It's funny because listening to you, I had to write down a statement that spoke to me as it speaks to the younger generation. And art actually is the epitome of limitless expression. It's something that this younger generation, I believe, is really striving for. So even though we have this structured education system that is unfortunately decades old, this younger generation is coming through with the advent of technology, the advent of just being able to learn about the whole world in the palm of their hand. And yet we expect them to sit behind a desk and actually go, oh, for 8 hours, we're just going to talk to you. It's not realistic. But the dynamic to change it is a little slow. Art has a way of giving kids the opportunity to express themselves in so many different ways. You know, not everybody is going to be a talented athlete. Not everybody's going to be a talented artist. Not everybody's going to be a talented singer. But guess what? Your lane is your lane. And your talent, whether your initial crowd is behind you or not, there's always somebody out there that's going to appreciate what you're doing. You just talked about a Japanese artist. I wrote down the name. I was like, I gotta go check it out. Just for the sake of saying, let me add something new to my list of things. Go, yeah, that girl's crazy, or no, that's fly.
You're gonna have to come back and say, "Oh, I meditated to that."
Okay, we'll work on that. But honestly, with art, I think for those of us who have been around education, have been there a long time, it's funny how the dynamic swings from one side of the spectrum to the other. So for a while there, they were taking arts out of the schools. I happened to be an educator when that system came to be. But now you see it coming back because it can touch all kids regardless of their intellect. I watched a kid with severe autism stand up and participate in Poetry Aloud, and watch that kid now go from not really having friends in school to having this group of kids who are supportive of him. So art is essential for us giving kids an outlet to just express themselves in whatever format is necessary.
One of my favorite quotes is by Felicia Rashad, and it's, "Before a child talks, they sing. Before they write, they draw. As soon as they stand, they dance. Art is fundamental to human expression." That poem really sums up a lot. Children don't know the arithmetic of 1 and 2 until they start getting taught quantity and quality, right? But they can understand happiness. They can understand sadness. They can understand anger. They can transmute all that understanding through colors on paper, on, rocks. Like my son will pick up rocks and be like, "Can we paint this?" I'm like, okay, like we're gonna paint some rocks, I guess. Art in schools, in my understanding, is important because it critical thinking skills. The ability of looking at things in a creative fashion allows people to be the most well-rounded versions of themselves. I think removing art from schools was still the programming of children to factory, just sitting there and working there for the cubicle hours and not really performing anywhere else in life. Because as the conversation, we had previously, art is in everything. Art is in, the architect. Art is in this building that we're sitting in right now. Art is the fact that we're able to communicate with you all the way in Delaware. I can see inside your house.
Yes, you can.
So, everything is art. And I want to also pass it to you, Alicia, because you said you are an art educator. Give us your experience with art as it relates to watching your students bloom.
So I've been teaching art for probably about somewhere between 10 and 12 years, but I've done it more in the last year than I have in that 10 or 12 years. In January, I had the opportunity to, I had an art residency in Ashford, Connecticut, which is far. So it was an 1.5-hour drive, and I went. It was a 4-week residency. And when I received the residency, the subject matter was the Holocaust, which I immediately was like, oh my gosh. Not even a subject that I myself have explored that much, just because of what my reaction is to things like that. And so spiritually, I protect myself from a lot of things, but there are things that we also need to know or are forced to know so that we can become better educators. And so each time I saw these kids, 5 different occurrences, I had a different assignment for them. In our second week, I introduced them to a Holocaust survivor who is, this was through a video. He wasn't physically there, but I introduced them through a Holocaust survivor named Michael Bornstein, who was 82 years old and had not spoken about his experience for 78 years. So he was a baby when he was in the Holocaust, and he talked about how he held it the entire time because speaking about it made him relive the trauma, and that was too difficult for him. But he also talked about having this number. I mean, he was 4 years old and they still gave him this tattoo on his arm. And so I shared this story with my students, and the assignment that I gave them was we were going to create number art, but we were going to change the narrative. And instead of them being numbered with something that was supposed to be disempowering, they were going to choose a number that was going to empower them. This was the assignment. And so I had each one of them individually choose a number that was meant for empowerment to them. And then I gave them the option to share, because some of these were very personal. So some of them, chose their birthday or their parents' birthday or something along those lines. One boy said to me, I chose the number 32-13. And I asked him why. And these kids are, by the way, 6th graders. Why did you choose the number 32-13? 32, because that was the age my father was when he died. I was not ready for that answer. 13, because that was my father's favorite number of his favorite football player. And so I feel like wearing the number 32-13 is a great way to honor my father's legacy and memory. And he shared this in the class. And I didn't find out until afterward that this kid doesn't even talk, ever. Getting him to open up about anything, his father's death, anything. But something about meeting this Holocaust survivor, hearing his story, and being able to express it through this number art opened him up. There was another student who came to me for the very same assignment and said, I don't want to share with the class, but I would like to share with you what my number is. And I said, what's your number? And he said, 12-16-16. I said, okay. He was like, it's my sister's birthday. Okay. It's also the last day I saw my parents. So these kids are coming to me with these stories of things that they don't talk about in school, because when I left that residency 5 weeks later, every teacher learned things about these kids that they had no clue. They had an option. At one point, we went over propaganda and how, the Nazis used propaganda to raise their power level. And so I was giving the kids an opportunity to create their own propaganda, but do it in a way that is to give voice to something important. So many of these children at 6th graders chose LGBTQIA because so many of them identify this way, but are not able to openly speak about it. They made their rainbow posters and flags and it was just beautiful. And all of the teachers said, we don't talk about this stuff. So an example, those are just a few examples of some of the things that I've seen. And even the example he just used with the autistic child. I have a child right now who I was not told was autistic, but I knew right away. I could just tell. And he doesn't engage the way the other kids does. He needs constant attention. And so I go over to him. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, we were working on an assignment where they're doing self-portraits, and I have them going through magazines to find pictures. And he's just sitting there looking at the magazine because he doesn't know what to do. So I start flipping through the magazine, and it's a gaming magazine. And I'm like, is there anything in here that you like? And right away he spots Sonic. So he gets excited when he sees Sonic, pulls that out. But what broke my heart is on the back of the paper, I had them write something about themselves that they felt important. And what he wrote, now this kid is he's barely verbal, but he wrote, I said, write something about yourself that you want people to know. Most of them, said, oh, I'm a great singer, or I like to roller skate, something like this. This little boy wrote, and I want everybody to hear this because I think we're so quick to treat people differently. This is a child that is 12 years old. He wrote, this is all I can accomplish, a scribble, because somebody is telling him that. And it broke my heart. And so I literally sat with him and worked with him. And normally he does nothing. And he produced a piece of artwork yesterday when I actually sat with him, paid attention, and explained. I asked him what his favorite color was. He said, I don't have a favorite color. I have a lot of favorite colors. I said, well, then let's put all of your favorite colors. But he's not talking to people otherwise. So those are just, I could literally talk forever about examples of what I've seen that art does for these kids, and not just for kids, adults. I've watched it happen in adults too. So it's just, it's huge. It's extremely important.
Thank you. I feel like it just speaks to, it's just plenty more examples of the importance of expression through art, because not everyone communicates the same way. Not everyone's able to communicate the same way. So, just, the ones who are able to find those avenues and be able to channel their feelings, emotions, and thoughts, the students from your class, with the Holocaust project, the teachers had no idea that they were feeling these things, that they had, that, these situations are a part of these students' lives. And these are people that they work with on a daily basis. So, for them to come to you and say, we had no idea, it just tells you, like, you have to explore different avenues of communication, and art being one of the major ones, just like the rest of the subjects. They're just as important,
There was something that happened during the Holocaust workshop as well that I wanted to bring up, because I also had a week where I talked to them about modern day Holocaust. I wanted them to look at the world now and see if they identified anything that they felt like was happening now that was like the Holocaust. They talked about Black Lives Matter. They talked about Asian hate because of the virus. And so there were a number of things that came up. And one of the students, a very white student, literally said, my ancestors are responsible for so much of what has happened. And I want to do something to change that, because that makes me feel shame, but I don't want that to continue. So my ancestors have a lot to do with what has happened, and I want to be part of the change. And I've never, like, hearing a 12-year-old own up, that was huge. So I just wanted to bring that up, because we look at these future generations like they're entitled and they're this and they're that, but I see so much in them that is not in the generations before, and they think and they feel and they question everything. And for this little boy at 12 years old to be able to say he wants to be part of the change for what is coming, and this was all through art workshops that this all came out, and it was just amazing to watch and hear them come up with this information.
That's beautiful.
You want them to hear you get a verbal lashing? He thought he was going to avoid the questions, like he's just monitoring the mic. He ain't even talking nothing. He's responding to everybody else. So, sir, shush. Yeah, not this time. So now we're going to put you in the hot seat. I want to get the spicy. Jerome, I want you to ask a question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh yeah. What's the most profound thing that you've shared that you didn't know your son experienced from either you being an MC or a poet?
The most profound thing that I've shared with my son that he didn't know I was doing?
What's something that you shared that you did not know your son was paying attention to, whether he was present or not, whether he saw it online or was there while you were performing, whether you were in a battle rap, whether you were freestyling, whether you were spitting a poem, whether you were working on something in the studio? What's something that you were creating or in the works or sharing or whatever format that you didn't realize that he was paying attention, and he brought it to your attention and it just caught you off guard in a meaningful, like the first time it really hit you, like, yo, he really pays attention to my art?
He done went real deep. That's real specific.
Wow. Something that caught me off guard that my son was paying attention to that I didn't realize. All right, so my son's 12, and I feel like parents in general, sometimes we don't think about, we don't think about the things that they don't, that we feel like they don't witness, you know what I'm saying? Because maybe we're not present, or they're not present at that moment, or they might be, they might be engulfed in something else, so they're not really paying attention to you. So you never really think about, hey, I'm just doing this over here and he's not watching or whatever. And then they hit you with that, boom. They say something very much that catches you off guard. That's a real question. Yeah. It's hard to answer because before COVID started, right? My son's on the basketball team at his school, and I was asked to be the assistant coach because they're young and they're sixth graders. They're learning from scratch. They need the experience, whatever. Awesome. I get to be a part of my son's life in this way. And I walk into the gym, and my son included, all of his friends and the basketball team is like, oh, Silent Quill, Silent Quill, Silent Quill. And I'm like looking around the room like, what is happening? So come to find out, my son Googles me often. He Googles me when they're in computer lab, and I'm on like the backdrop of his computer. And, so it's like I have this fan that I've created, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, so from that moment, I started to pay much more attention to the things that I do in front of him and away from him, because you never know. I mean, ultimately, they're always watching. Even when you think they're not watching, they're always watching. It kind of speaks to, like, and this could be a little left, but it kind of speaks to like parents in like troubled relationships or divorces, separations, things like that, that affect children or whatever. You never really know what people discredit the children from what they pay attention to. You know what I mean? Like they see everything. They see the little nuances, the shifts, the energy shifts, the changes, all the minor details that you think nobody's really paying attention to. They hold on to those things, and they grow up with those things, and eventually they speak out on them. I can't think of anything specific that my son has said to me about myself, because he's a clown, so he's always joking around about stuff. But it's like when you walk into his classroom and his entire class knows who you are as an artist, that tells you he talks about you. That tells you he's paying attention, he's watching you do things. So it just, it put me in a position where I feel like I need to be intentional about how I do things in public and in private, because he's always watching. Even if his eyes aren't on me, they are, if that makes sense. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
That's actually it's well, that's why it's called the hot seat. Children.
How about my children? I'll talk about my kids for a second.
I was like, I was looking for some audience participation.
Nobody, I went up to every single table, and I tell you, nobody got anything to say. Nothing. But I hear
Wait,
them talking.
pause a whole second and a half
Someone back
because
there said she always got something to say.
she definitely always got something to say.
Yeah.
Which is why it was specifically like little angel is.
Look, she fixed her pants. She ready to say something. So art for me is the language in my household, whether it's something as little as a TikTok and acting, or art. Like I have a 5-year-old and she paints all the time, and she's always extra. In my house is very, very extra. So art is big in my house. So basically for me, art is communication, period. Did you fix your pants to say something? Okay, I'm coming.
So art is a lot of things, like you guys mentioned, to like a lot of people. But one thing I think art is like it's hope. Because, you know, when people are trying to find like a way forward, they like let it out, and then they find the strength to move on. And it makes you think like art is so amazing because whatever medium it is really like an encapsulation of that moment, that point in time, and the emotions of that individual in time. And we can look back and we can see like the art of peoples and cultures and civilizations past and like wonder what they were thinking about. But in that moment, they created something and it's left behind for us to see. Like, you know, even people like 8,000 years ago, they were creating figures out of stone of, you know, beautiful big women. Oh yeah, beautiful big women. Yes. Because that's what, you know, that was the art that they chose to express the human body and the form of even a woman body or a male body. A body is art too. And like it can be anything to anyone. And just these is only like a fraction of what it means, like to me and to so many more. And we just have to, you know, we can unlock that art in people if we show it to them. Like your story about the children that you worked with really like spoke to us back here because they were able to like express an emotion that they couldn't put into words. You know, so especially with like, you know, things that like you create with your hands or like draw or paint, especially if you can't find the words to speak it, like experiences are not trapped in words. They're in pictures, in flashing moments, and there aren't always words to describe them. They can become so inaccurate after they're released. But that art is pure expression of emotion. And that's what I had to say.
Yes, art is pure expression of emotion. That is beautiful. We're agreeing with that statement up on stage.
You got something to say, Gabby?
Expression of
We got
emotion.
another audience member that wants to talk.
Within your own healing and your own personal growth, in what way has your art evolved?
That's really that. I like the fact that, you know, when you're in a room with like-minded individuals, things will sync up, you know, occasionally. Like there's that mental telepathic communication. You know, coming off of, you know, another statement in the audience, you know, I was thinking about a poem that I wrote. It's called Prescription Poetry. So when I think about art helping me on my healing journey, this poem will sum that up for you. For those who don't know, it's in my book, Weathering the Storms.
Let's go.
Yes.
We ain't got 2 books out.
You know, there's two.
Yes, we can clap for Rain. She got 2 books out. Finally.
You know what?
Let's go. Let's clap it up for Rain right quick. Let's go. That's right.
I love you guys. But yes, this is Prescription Poetry out of Weathering the Storms. A poem a day keeps the suicidal thoughts at bay, keeps them from becoming acted on, just mentally acted out, stops me to make me think, what will happen if I do this? What will happen to my children if I do this? I understand why some say those who commit it are selfish. Some say it was their last act of self-control, trying to control the hurt, the incessant thoughts, the constant battle between the brain and the heart, the emptiness they can't seem to explain, questioning if there's a reset button they can hit in this game. But life is not a game. This call of duty has no respawn, yet we spawn as mercenaries of self-destruction, resurrection with every confrontation. What's the point of being here? Darkness holds no solace when we've already been walking blindly through hell. So I write my way back to light, lightening the load of weighted shame. I took blame before I knew how to spell my name. Spells cast over me to be sorry, had to learn counter spells teaching me how to love me, that I was worthy. Poetry is a saved spirit soliloquy, a plea, an answer, a warning, an extended hand for the next spirit's misery. Because when suicidal thoughts creep across the shadows of tarnished dreams, it comes to snuff out the hope in tomorrow, the joy of today. It comes to make you believe the past is all that matters, all you can amount to, making you forget that the past is already gone and done, and you have the power to be renewed, refreshed with every breath you take with the rising of the sun. So I writing myself back to redemption, to look back and recall which steps not to take, fluid words of flexibility, vulnerability that keeps me from breaking, a daily dose of poetry. A line of consciousness creating space to a future I get to create, and the perfect prescription for overthinking, keeping suicidal thoughts at bay. That is prescription poetry.
Woo, Rain. Okay, I'm gonna ask respectfully, everyone who's talking, I know that your conversations are very important, but if we keep it down to a minimum, please, because when we're up here, it's hard to listen if everyone's talking at the same time. And also, you had a question. You asked the question. Can you ask it again?
I said, in your own personal growth and healing, in what way has your art evolved? For everybody.
Or her poem. Okay.
Benny.
Oh, we have someone on the screen who wants to answer? Do we see
Please.
a hand?
Please.
Did you guys
Hi.
hear the question up there?
Could I get a repeat of it, please?
I just asked if your art has evolved with your own personal growth.
Yes. I will say I got a lot more brave in my expression. I got a lot more brave with the imagery that I use. I'm speaking specifically about visual art. Because I think visual art for me is the first place that I go to when I am feeling something big. And at first, when I was, I had the desire to visually put down some darker imagery. It made me feel all sorts of feelings, like shame. It made me feel like I should hide it. It made me feel like, how do I turn this into a positive? And so it was really challenging for me to get those things out and let them be what they were, and capturing that moment and being brave in expression. I think currently I'm in the place where I'm doing the same thing with poetry. When I started performing in 2010, closer to like 2012, it was easy for me to hide behind political poetry, although all poetry is personal and political. But it was very easy for me to express about a cause, about what was happening in the world, and sometimes connect it to my own personal life. Whereas now my starting point is my personal life, and then connecting it to the things that are happening out in the world if need be, or just letting it stay in the emotions that I'm feeling, in the thoughts that I'm thinking, because that is bravery. It is vulnerability. Those things aren't separate, and those things aren't different from each other. So I'm currently in a place where I'm trying to open up even more and unfold even more and express even more vulnerability within myself with spoken word, with poetry specifically. And I think I've been doing that for a while now with visual art.
Ooh, there's been a request.
Is there a poem?
Is there a poem we can hear from the Miss Zuli Nets?
Could I get that one more time? What?
Miss Zuli Net. I said that one. You know who's talking to you, Zuli Net?
Uh-oh.
Who's talking? You know who's talking to you, Zuli Net?
I sure do, D. True.
Oh, I love you.
Yes, I will share one. I had taken a trip to Puerto Rico last year to see family, to help my mother with land. And we were there she had an axe in her hand and I had a machete, and we were clearing out land together, mother and daughter. And just being there, like, just inspired a lot of stuff, including this poem. Mommy, I think you'd think me sacrilegious if I told you that when I think of God, how tall they are, how their wavy hair lays, what they must sound like, I think of you. For me, there is no white bearded man floating in the sky, letting time fly by as he passes judgment onto his creations. When I think of Creator, I think of Ma, your mother. I think of the veins of women ancestors who birthed you, who birthed me. Mommy, my God. I think you'd think me sacrilegious when I asked you if God was a boy or a girl, and you patiently replied, neither. So I asked if I could call God a woman, and you impatiently replied, no, he is Father God. But mommy, I don't see myself in him, because when I think of him, I think of the men, of all the harm that came after them, the floods and the punches and demanding acts of loyalty by sacrificing a son, and drugs, and actually sacrificing a son, and rape. I easily confuse the men in our family with God, or is it them confusing themselves with each other? You raised me to be fair, and I don't think it's fair that a man gets the credit when I think of God. I think of you, unquestioningly taking our cousins in and bawling out at the Dollar Tree every year to ensure everyone got something, and y'all know how big Puerto Rican families are. Of you being there for me, my brother, my sister, even after royally pissing you off. That volcanic eruption was easily transformed into a soothing campfire that kept the bad away. I think of you leaving the abusive home of your father to run into the abusive hands of another man. What is it like to have to choose between two storms? Did God ever take the blows on your behalf? I think of all that you've survived and still choosing to love and give more life to me. I think of the ways you've used your hands to mend clothes, to defend family, of sitting with me to do homework, drawing cakes and doing simple math until you couldn't help me anymore because your education ended in the 8th grade. I think of how intolerant you can be, the volatility you can spew, of how much of a superhero you are, how human you can be, of the handful of times I've ever seen you cry, like when you heard your only son was stabbed and I picked you up off the floor, mommy. I've never seen this man in the sky cry, but I've seen you cry, and my God, if anything could destroy me, it would be that. I think of you offering a plate, multiple plates, all the plates of food to guests when they come over, and giving them more when they're done. I learned that when you have nothing, you still give, and that is everything. What Jesus did with bread and fish was cool, but he never fed hordes of people arroz con habichuela y carne, something that really sticks to the ribs. What is it like to have been taught all your life that you come from a man's rib? Mommy, my God. The Bible had it right when it said, you can't look God in the eyes. What would I behold if I did? What ways would I be shattered if I held your gaze? How many ways could I be undone? You will never hear these words because I know you would hate it and argue with me and call me sacrilegious. But my God, just know that when I pray or give thanks, yours is the first name to be blessed because my God. Thank you.
Yes, Zulinet. Yes, talking about. I love that. Oh, my microphone be coming in and out, but I love that. Definitely.
Like, I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but I want to be Zulinet's mom. Like,
Do you want to be her mom?
I mean, not like that. I'm just
What?
saying.
Oh goodness!
It's
Artist
more like
appreciation.
the appreciation.
Yes,
Like
I appreciate it.
I want to be like, and it's not
You
that
want
my
to be
daughter doesn't
amused
thank
in her
me
poem, is
own
what
way.
you're saying? No? Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you were
That
saying.
is a dangerous request, asking to be part of a Zulinet poem. It was. I see some audience,
Who's raising their hand? Somebody raising their hand? Nobody. Well, Zulinet answered it, and Rain answered it in poem form. I
Right,
know.
so we're just gonna pass it on. Like, so who's next?
Yes. So
Who's next?
who's getting it next? Yeah, not gonna jump for the opportunity. There it is. Jerome G. And he's answering with a poem. Let's go. Ty just gonna talk about something. That's what it is.
So during my, let's just say like the top of 2019 was a straight trash. And then 2020 just was like the dumpster fire and someone poured like kerosene dumpster juice. But like, it wasn't all in vain. And like, there's a lot of growth that came out of that. And I had to go back and revise my segment of a group piece that I did. And everything that I wrote in this is the absolute truth. So, the Hoover Dam straddles the border of Nevada and Arizona states. It has a height of 726.4 feet, base width of 660 feet, generates 4.2 terawatts of power per year, and cost 100 lives plus to construct. Interesting how something with such purpose is filled with trauma. Some women say that men are trash. I say, as men, we are raised to be dams. Stand tall, never crack, forced to hold back a lifetime of pain, suffering, trauma, tears. Never let a drip drop from our face. For years, every night I laid down, my body became a levee. Nightmares crashed and spilled over my bed, fighting a hurricane of hurt. Words poured out the mouths of friends' faces. Yo, dog, if you need to talk, I'm here for you. So I tried. Sent up the flare, man down, but conversations with my boys is like the 90s game show American Gladiator, a battle of the one-up. At least you weren't abandoned. Nigga, at least you didn't give your mom drugs so she wouldn't suck dick. Trauma versus trauma, rock, paper, scissors, crack rock beats, DCF paperwork. Maybe they're right. Being 11 years old when a 13-year-old pulled a gun on me wasn't that bad. Being a preschooler when a drug addict broke into my home and threatened my mother's life wasn't a big deal. Or the day I realized I didn't love myself and wondered if the insurance money for my death would be enough to buy my mother a house was the result of lack of melanin in my skin, because somehow being light-skinned voids the possibility of being depressed and near suicide. These are the things men don't tell their friends, let alone tell their lovers. We are raised to be dams. Stand tall, never crack, stand back. I don't want to flood you with all this pain, suffering, trauma, tears. You think you know heartbreak? You think being dumped by your lover is bad? Try being dropped by your therapist. The Hoover Dam was deemed complete with areas of concrete that still hasn't cured when it was constructed during the Great Depression. At the age of 18, I was legally deemed an adult with childhood trauma that wasn't healed before I fell into a deep depression. Some women say, all men are trash. I say stop raising us to be reservoirs of regret. We all should stop holding men to their secrets and start holding us accountable. And every man has emotions. You would know if you gave us a damn break.
Let's give it up for Jerome G. Let's go. Let's go. For that poem. I want to cry every time. I want to cry every time. You got something to say, Ty? You need the microphone? I got the microphone. I got you. No? Thanks.
So it's ironic that Gabby asked that question, because Gabby has been doing energy work with me and helping me to heal for the last 4+ years. So she knows how my work has evolved. I'm going to actually not answer that question in the form of a poem, but in a journal entry and the painting that is in the center of the platform up front. The name of the painting is Element of Freedom. And I'm just going to read the journal entry so you guys can understand the story behind the painting. And this was a huge part of my healing. Journal entry, November 1st, 2019. In November 2018, I awoke from a dream where I was holding a gun to my head. When I pulled the trigger, 13 black butterflies emerged. It was disturbing to say the least, but I immediately knew I had to paint it. I fought it for a while because of the nature of the painting, and admittedly because I didn't completely understand what it meant. I refused and fell into a deep depression after about 2 weeks of holding it in. 4 full-blown days of darkness, and my spirit told me to go into the studio and start the piece. I decided to move forward with the sketch on canvas. Its meaning unfolded in the process of its creation. It is a very layered piece, both personal and political, all me. Politically, I am biracial, which is why my flesh is painted black and white. My arm is painted as a part of the fabric of the American flag, which represents conformity. The white, bright white, black, and gray stars represent the people of this country, some burn brighter than others according to our political system. These stars are actively falling from their places in the box. There is destruction in the background and large pools of blue blood because we are all bleed the same, and so many are killed by blue. There are 12 stripes instead of 13, which is representative of the incomplete and tarnished history of this country. The gun is a .45. The president at the time of this vision was the 45th. The black butterflies exploding from the exit wounds represent the 13th Amendment, the abolishment of slavery, which has only become mass incarceration of black and brown people. The shards of glass, which are part of the explosion, represent parts of the wings being broken. Dreams shattered, people lost. The pieces of glass around the butterflies came from my car window, which was shot in a drive-by shooting in early 2019. I was not in the car and nobody was hurt. Personally, I've battled depression for nearly half my life. Suicidal thoughts and ideations were a part of this battle. I've learned over the years and through treatment that much of my battle was a spiritual one. Personally, this piece represents my struggle with duality. It's about the death of my ego and the birth of my constant transformation as a spiritual being having a human experience. The ego, the mind,
has often been a source of pain and confusion for me, though it is necessary to survive as a human. The gunshot to my head is the silencing of my ego. The expression of peace on my face comes from that silence. The black butterflies represent the release of negativity and darkness. The 40 stars represent my age at the time this dream came to me. The 12 stripes represent completion for me because life as I know it has ended. The blood dripping and spatter shows how messy and beautiful healing can truly be. You must be willing to die to be born again. My rebirth has begun. Thank you, Mom. So when I originally met Gabby, I want to say 5 years ago, she walked in my studio. We met at an event, but at one point she came to my studio and looked at my work on the wall. None of it was like this. This is probably the most poignant piece I've ever created. They're pretty, colorful butterflies. So when we talk about the evolution of my work, I wanted to make things pretty. That was what I thought an artist was supposed to do. And I remember her looking at the work on my walls and saying, "Your work is beautiful." I said, "Thank you." And her next words were, "There's so much pain in them." And I was like, what? I was like, what is she talking about? Like, I'm thinking I'm creating these beautiful things. And then when I really thought about it, every time I was creating, I was working through whatever was happening in my life. And I never thought that that pain was showing up in those paintings. And so going back to the idea of expression as an artist and not really, sometimes not even really knowing where this work is coming from. Even this piece, I did not know what it meant until I completed it. I had to complete it to understand it. And I literally went into a depression because I would not. And so one of the things that I've learned as an artist is I am a vessel. I cannot claim the works that I create. Though my body creates them, they don't come from me. These are visions, these are stories that come to me, and I obey, am obedient to whatever it comes to me, and I put it out there because I have denied or not listened to that voice. And every time I have not listened or been obedient to it, there are consequences that I would rather not suffer. And so now when I get a vision or a story or a painting, I started just so that I can honor the process and hopefully complete it. But as far as evolution of my work is concerned, I am no longer afraid of telling my story. I am no longer afraid of expressing myself, whether it be through words, art, teaching. And I have definitely evolved that way because there was a time when I said nothing. And now you can't shut me up. So there you go. Let's give it up. I just want to pick, I'm sorry, Quill. Because I just saw an opportunity because she said that she was silenced. And I feel like as a kid, I was silenced until my silence was broken. Thus the book that I have out is Broken Silence. I didn't say that, I said that because I'm going to say a poem from it, but that's what art is for me. Art is my voice. And I also say that I didn't go through what I went through for myself. I went through it so I could tell my story and so that someone doesn't feel alone. You know what I mean? And so you said a lot of the things that I was thinking. So I just figured just kind of go after her. I'm sorry, Quill, if I cut you off. I have a poem that's called 4 Seasons of Grief. And for a long time, I spoke about doing a book, right? And so because my mother was alive, I couldn't do it because I didn't want to embarrass her, right? Because there's a lot of things about her in my book. So with that being said, I'm just going to spit this poem because I have evolved through my poetry. I know I still have a poem in me that can be a little more transparent. I'm still working on it. I'm writing it. It's not done yet. All my poets know that those poems take a long time because to be honest with yourself, let me tell you something.
It's a process. It's a process.
It is a process. Your poems took a long time. And I know Jerome said his poem, you know, that honest poem took a long time. And I'm just like, I'm going to be patient with myself because there's certain things I don't want to share yet. And when I'm ready, that poem's gonna be fire, I'm gonna tell you. But yeah, 4 seasons of grief. I've seen leaves change colors, blown in the wind, falling from deep rooted trees, hearts frozen from Arctic winds, pitch white skies, roaring thunders. I've seen death. I've seen, oh, my phone just said, "You seen nothing." I've seen, I've seen death. I've seen flowers bloom in concrete jungles. I've seen life. I've seen suns rising over troubled waters. I've seen them set where moons drag the tides behind feet who run past bodies overdosed on poverty. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen love and obsession, wondering if there's a difference. I've struggled with love and obsession, wondering if there's a difference. I fought with nightmares and reality, wondering if there's a difference. I've reasoned with death while taking life for granted. 4 seasons of grief and still no relief. So I close my eyes so it doesn't hurt so much. Only to smell the rotting corpse of promise, smelling the bloody cheeks of hungered bellies, smelling lonely, where doors are unlocked, where stories go untold, where coconut fills the air, where salsa's blared to drown out the boiled eggs in the air, where echoes of clawing nails go unheard, where prayer becomes a sin while sinners are praised, where a child has to make a choice, turning frowns upside down, tears of joy. I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot. I've said nothing. Unspoken truths haunt me. The unheard like white noise. The unseen flashes before me daily. I give you little pieces of me, but the river runs deep. Deeper than the ocean, but like 4 seasons, I keep changing. Changed thoughts become spoken words. Through spoken words, actions are taken to change autumn into winter, winter into spring, and spring into summer. We must die before we can truly live, for every season is a transformation of life. Poem.
So I'm gonna interject before giving the mic back to Quill. But something that's been consistent was the evolution of being able to be expressive. We go off from not having voices, right? Whatever means that is. Like, you can be silenced at home, you can be silenced in the school system, you can be silenced, walking because your shade is a little different than what they expect in that neighborhood. But to be able to have art. And you think about it, like you're all children, they start off and they do like they're doing scribbles, and then as they grow, like that matures. Now they got stick figures and everything. So I think even for me, like I went from drawing to journaling to writing poetry to painting and doing poetry. So I can see how like my art has evolved, and the content that I write about, there's a lot of social justice pieces that come out of me. A lot of my healing poems come out of me. A lot of hopes and dreams for the future come out of me. With that, I've even elevated to a new level. So as you guys know, I have 2 books. I have a podcast. I'm having my first art exhibition also in this month. I would not have even said, yeah, I'm going to take this leap and do that had I not gotten more comfortable and saying poetry out loud in front of people. Like, I still shake because that's a innocent part of myself that I guarded for so long that I'm literally opening it up to, like, are you a wolf or are you a lamb? Like, I don't know, but here I am. So art evolving for me has definitely been the strengthening of my voice. Okay. But I do want to ask Mike, can you answer the question in regards to how has art evolved during your healing journey or your journey period?
Yeah, I'll answer that more from
Pause. We can't hear you. Go ahead and try again.
about now.
We got you.
All right. I answer that more from a practitioner as an educator. So when I started my career, I arrogantly entered the classroom thinking there was no one I couldn't teach math to. Regardless of your background, regardless of your circumstance, I always had a quick wit and could figure out something that was directly able to reach you where your blockage was. As I became more mature in education and drifted out of the classroom, became an administrator, my purpose changed. And I saw it more as I had to be a representative of a positive role model, particularly a positive Black role model for every student in that building I was going to be in, regardless of color, regardless of grade. Because in my head, I started to think of, I may be the only one they see. And I started living that truth all the way to this part of my career where now I'm starting to look for who can I grab to start duplicating this process. Because for me, it's the end goal is to get your degree. But that's really just the first step of your end goal because it needs to be a bridge to whatever you're going to be. So I reached out for the kids that nobody else wants to deal with. I want to be that bridge. Have I been able to reach them all? No. But I can say this. They'll never go a day in their life and say somebody didn't try. So my, evolving for me moved from the arrogance of just, I'm a good math teacher, to being a responsible adult trying to reach a kid and show them that somebody cares enough about your future to stay right with you when everybody else gives up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Give it up for Michael. So there's also another question I want to ask. From music to visual art to words that you've heard as an educator, as a Black man, as human, how would you say art has impacted you the most to date?
I think it's learning to appreciate the different forms of it. So I'll share the story quickly with you. I failed my art class in middle school. And I remember the day I hated art. I was given a freelance picture to draw with a bunch of lines and scribbled lines. I did it in pencil. Teacher loved it. Say, okay, we need you to duplicate this in ink. It was not the same picture. And she crushed me. I mean, she came down hard on me. And at that point, I was like, look, just give me my F and let me move on because I got skills other places. Like, give me some numbers. I can flip those numbers for you, make some money, keep moving. But as I've gotten older, the appreciation for different forms of art, different forms of expression, and how they show up and the ability to reach kids, reach adults. You talk about art therapy now, the research just in that. It's amazing how it connects those who are in need or just need a way to express. I look at my life now and I'm a budding photographer. It started off taking pictures of my kid playing soccer. And now you can only see like a couple of things behind me, but those are just pictures that you just catch of scenery that's just gorgeous. And sometimes it's almost by mistake. You just happen to be in the right place at the right time. But that gift of art falls in your lap, somewhat like a poem falls to you guys.
Thanks, Mike. Crickets. Got crickets in the building. Yeah, so I'm gonna answer Gabby's question in a form of a poem. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm silent, and I want to welcome you to this place. A place where all I wanted to do was climb beanstalks into the night sky, to sit aside the moon and talk about everything and nothing at all, eat jelly beans until my belly aches, write my sequel to be a better book than me, and pour my heart out on loose leaves in exchange for a bit of understanding and maybe $1. But I allowed myself to remain captive in a place where growth and healing don't exist. I allowed people to warden over my spirit, preventing organic development. I was trapped behind bars of my own making, a slave to my thoughts, prisoner of the mind, serving time for crimes I didn't commit. Punishment delivers a different kind of painful for the innocent, but in a sense, I was guilty because I enabled this environment. The cell doors were never actually closed. I chose to stay in this place where you'll want to grow wings, then wonder what's the point of being fly if the sky is falling. Clouds weigh tons, and sunshine is blinding, so you welcome the rains that black clouds bring with an open heart. You embrace the dark because the search for peace in the silver lining feels like time wasted. In this place, you'll wear stone-faced masks with smiles chiseled into them to hide your hurts, but even the most concrete of men crack to enough iron swings, making it harder to disguise the disgust in yourself for allowing your past to convince your present that your future doesn't deserve better. It's a place where there isn't enough cash to rule everything around you, but the lack of it rules with an iron fist. You'll know it in your soul that you're dope, but you just can't afford to show it. How many times in a lifetime can one person hear how amazing he'd be if he could just get his shit together? You want to believe it's the size of your heart and your spirit that matters more than the size of your pocket. So you figured if you love big in these lands, you'll live forever, like when a writer falls in love with you. But no. Appreciation goes to the man that gives his last. Respect goes to the one that never sees it. On occasion, you'll dance and feel regal through the moments just until the music stops. That's when you'll realize the difference between being treated like a king and actually being one. Finally opening your eye to realize your reality. The blow from the blind side tears your soul in three, one off to grind, one off to find, and one left behind to keep the beacon lit to guide you all back home. This separation of soul disconnects you from those who can't, won't, and don't understand that the journey that lies ahead are lonely roads and it's nothing personal. But while you're trying to identify the person that you see in the mirror, for some reason, some people make it about them. So you learn to survive conditional connections and abstinence. And if you think that's hard, then try breaking a soul tie. It's like reaching elbow deep into your own chest and tugging at your very life force to pick out the worst and fondest parts of someone who's just too damn painful to hold on to. Careful not to sever everything else you hold dear, leaving you cold enough to have each new person you meet checking for your pulse because you seem a bit dead. Your perceived corpse of a personality triggers curiosity. Strangers seem to appreciate you more than the familiar, so when you decide to break your silence, most times your conversations are superficial, due to the fact that you got a lot of shit with you and it's all a bit too complicated. Apparently, no one has time for such things. It's a place where you'll grieve and receive condolences for the loss of those you chose to be your closest. Because lately, they never felt more distant. Losses that turn lessons and open doors to a better understanding of love and appreciation of self, which hardly make it a loss. Since those doors have closed behind you, you resist glancing outside of history's window because there's no healing there. But you give thanks for the memories as they sneak from your eyes and roll down your cheek. It's a place where every day you feel homesick. It's been so long since you last felt at home, you can't remember what home felt like. If home is where the heart is, does being homeless make you heartless? You click your heels together like defibrillators in hopes one day things will become clear. Where you give someone your world and not be allowed to live in it. Yet you stand outside gazing through the window like a homeless boy on Christmas, watching the family feast, hoping the growling of your stomach, as embarrassing as it might be, will bring notice to the mist of your breath on the glass.
Your holidays are nothing more than hollow days, and you're amazed when you realize that things can actually be filled with emptiness. A place where you'll find your self-esteem low enough to trip over. Occasionally, you surround yourself with people who get down with the pick-me-up, but after the sun sets, the mic turns off, and the night grows old, it's back to the shadows with you, where you're haunted by the presence of your past. A self-sacrifice made in order to be present for your future. Ghosts who seem to find pleasure in haunting the insecure. So frightening, the Sandman casually glides past your window, hoping to go unnoticed, looking from the outside in, wishing the insomniac peace, strength, and blessings. Where sure things turn doubtful, and high hopes are offered lower pedestals. Family is miles out of arm's reach, and love is invisible. So you rip the eyes of your heart out, hoping it'll force itself to look inward for what it needs. You submerge your mind in work and ink to drown out the deafening sounds of loneliness screaming silence into your ear. Your pen is an aqueduct between mind, heart, and pieces of paper. You create your pieces hoping to create peace while fighting wars that leave joy in pieces. You write your joys in spite of your traumas and use ink to cover the scars. You write your smiles through your tears because you're more creative when it rains. Your notebook seems to be the only one left that gets it. Its spine is the only reason you're still standing. Otherwise, its back would have snapped to the weight of your thoughts a long time ago. It's been so dark for so long, you have no idea how much strength it takes to simply get out of bed every day. But I rise anyway. I rise to reside in a place where the sun rises for late bloomers, and passerbys don't just pass by, they stop and smell the roses. My grandfather stood in my 5th grade class as he told me to wake up and smell them before the petals fade. I was too young to understand the message and fear of the belt lashes that never came. I wish you were still here to hear. I think I get it now. So I brought axes to beanstalks and spread my wings. Why climb when I could fly alongside the moon and talk about everything and nothing at all? I love jelly beans so much, but everything you love isn't good for you. My sequel will be a much better book than me. He was born a page turner. He's worth every drip of ink from my veins, and I will continue to pour my heart out on loose leaves in exchange for a bit of understanding and maybe $1. Peace.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. That piece took a long time to write. I know True touched on that about how, it's a process to be able to get to a point where you're being transparent and vulnerable and sharing your work. That piece took me a long time to write, and it took me even longer to decide to read it in public. It's a lot being that revealing and being that open and sharing these deeper parts of you that you're not normally used to speaking on. It kind of speaks to what Jerome was speaking on earlier with sharing those vulnerabilities and that transition from entertainment to impact. Because everything that I was talking about, some way, shape, or form, somebody can take something from that and use that and apply it to their own lives to move forward and inspire them to do more, and even get to a point where they can speak and share their own experiences and hopefully cause some type of ripple effect to and it'll spread. So that's at this point for me as an artist, that's the intention. It's entertainment is great. It's a beautiful thing to laugh, to have joy and all that. I would never discredit that, but alongside that, the impact. What's your message? What are you telling people? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to get out there? What do you want the world to look like? You know what I mean? So that's how I communicate through my art, what I want the world to look like. What we have down here? You got something? You want to speak on something? Where's Ty? Hey, Ty, I need. I know. You could come get this one from me if you need to. I mean,
Where'd he go? Oh, you're hiding? No, you can't hide.
What are we talking about? No, I mean, I don't really have a poem for this or nothing like that. I'm not a poet. I am. I'm not a poet. I'm more like a talker. Look at her face. Why she making that face? But
Because I don't
yeah.
believe you. You sound like a liar. You sound like a poet.
Art.
We
right?
all at one point have said that. So go ahead,
I'm
poet.
just gonna say,
your
like,
thing.
I'm just gonna talk this through, because our experiences, right? My experiences, I speak personal in life, man, the ups, the downs, the struggles, the growth, the pain, right? At the end of the day, even like today, I don't feel my best. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel my best. I haven't felt my best in a while. Like I've been going through a struggle or whatever. But in that struggle though, I know something. As long as I put one step, I said this the other day in a group text. I said, I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other, right? Until, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to turn out. And I'm not even projecting into that. But I put one foot in front of the other. I get up in the morning. I thank God for that, right? And I put one foot in front of the other. And I know that at the end of the journey, it's going to be worthwhile. Like Quill said, right? My 5 year self in the future, right, is waiting for me to arrive, right? Something of that nature is waiting for me to arrive. And when I arrive, it's going to be like, yeah, you kind of dope. And so I listen to these guys. I listen to, Jerome. I listen to the women, right? And when they talk, I don't just hear the words, right? I try to embody that everything they saying. So their art is not just words, is not just paintings, is not just thoughts, right? For me, it's something to live. I try to live them out. You know what I'm saying? I don't take everything because everything ain't for me. But for the things that are that is for me, I try to embody those things and then I project them into the world. Hopefully I can make somebody smile. Even when I feel bad inside, somebody smiles. You know what I'm saying? If only my child, right? Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But we do these things and then when you least expect it, right? When you least expect it and you going through something, somebody that you touch will come back and touch you again, right? They'll come back and touch you and it'll give you encouragement to be a better person for tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm talking on that, but this is the expression of art, right? Art touches souls and souls changes the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. That's all I got.
See, and you said something, Ty. Look at you. You said something, so.
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to touch on what Ty was saying. We're having some discussion, and what I always say is that all the hardships that you go through, the challenges that you go through in life are they're designed to build you into the person that you want to be, the places that you're going to go. So the way I like to think of it is that, what helps me stay motivated, I think about the future me, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, sitting up in his place, being great and being awesome and feeling good, looking back at me saying, yo, you're on your way here. So like, don't worry about it. I know what I'm saying. So the way I imagine is that my future self he's comfortable and in that place. watching current me go through all the drama and all the nonsense that I feel like is drama and nonsense, but it's really not. It's just building me up to get there. So that's just some clarification on what Ty was talking about. So don't let the hardships hold you back. Embrace them, go through them, you know, and just appreciate it. And you're gonna get where you want to go. You'll be fine.
I'd like to respond to what Ty said, if I may.
We get a mic on Zulianet, please.
Is the mic? I don't know. Can y'all hear me?
We're trying to hear Zulianet.
Can y'all hear me now? How about now? Yeah? I wanted to tell Ty that I just wrote a poem based off of what he said. If I could share it. Because to me, people speak in poetry all the time, and I love it when people say that they're not poets, because then immediately after that, poetry comes right out of their mouth. So Ty, this is for you, and it's coming from you, so thanks. It's really short. I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other, and I know at the end of the journey, it'll be worthwhile. 5 years from now, I'm waiting for me to arrive expecting dopeness. I embody what is for me, projecting into the world to make somebody smile, even if only my child, when you least expect it. An unexpected touched person will reach back and let you know art touches souls and souls change the world. And if that's all I've got, it's more than enough. Souls change the world. That's all I got. Thanks, Ty.
Okay. Thank you so much. I love hearing your voice. We have a comment or something to say about art in the audience. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Cynthia del Valle. Be fit for you. Art to me is freedom, and it helps me in my healing because I'm very hard on myself. And when I do something, I want to do it perfectly, and I can't because I'm human. So when I started painting and I noticed that it was not perfect, it was messed up, I got so frustrated, and I took the brush and I just started slapping it around. And then I looked at it and I said, oh shit, it looks pretty. So I just finished it up. So I don't have to be perfect. I'm so beautiful person.
So art is not perfection, but it is perfect though, right? Art is perfect even though it's not perfect, right? Perfectly imperfect.
I have to say something in response to that because I work with so many children. And I had a period of my art career where I was an absolute perfectionist, and it stopped me from creating because I would get stressed out and frustrated and it's not right. So I would stop. And then when I started ironically doing sip and paints, when that whole, sip and paints is this big thing and so I started doing sip and paints in my studio. And, I'm dealing with a bunch of adults who are drinking and they really it's not that serious to them, right? I mean, you do get a couple who are really analytical and perfectionists and they're like, their lines need to be just so. But for the most part, I have a room of 20 drunk women who really it's not that serious. And I would be painting and I would mess something up and none of them know. Only I knew. And it helped me to not take myself so serious. So I understood that going into that was something that was to help me to become a better artist so I could stop the whole need for perfection. So one of the things that I say to my students all the time now, and whether it's virtual students, in person, talking about perfection, I have conversations with them about perfection. Almost all of my students tell me right away, perfection doesn't exist. All of these little babies, they're like, no, there's no such thing as perfection. So when I see them being hypercritical of themselves, because these next generations, the anxiety is through the roof. And so when I see them being hypercritical or trying to be perfectionists, I literally tell them, perfection is showing up to do your best, period. There's no such thing as perfection, but if you want to give perfection a definition, it is showing up to do your best. And so it's helping to redefine what that means to them.
when I see them going into those spaces of anxiety that I recognize because I was there, I just really related to what you just said. And so with the kids, I'm changing the narrative of what perfection is, because these kids are being taught to move a certain way instead of just being taught to be themselves, which is the mistake that every generation before has made. And so really allowing them to express themselves freely, be exactly who they are. I encourage it in my room, and I tell them perfection is just showing up to do your best. If your best is 30% today, show up with that. That's it. So shout out to you for slinging that brush around and continuing the piece, even though at first you thought it wasn't going to be what you wanted it to be.
I'm gonna learn how to do that thunderclap. I need that. Is that? No. You should do a class. a thunderclap masterclass. Absolutely. Right? Got to cup it. All right. So moving on. What we want to do now is in appreciation of our artists who are here this evening, we have some work displayed in the front. We want to give the artists an opportunity to talk about their pieces, if we can do that. Hey, Sulinette, you want to talk about your work? You want to talk about your art?
What piece of mine is there?
The one in my collection.
Oh, the galaxy piece. Yes.
What is that?
No. I got the text about the voice. So Miss Obsidian Rain had commissioned me to make a piece for her based off of another piece that I had made. I am in love with making paintings that have galaxy backgrounds, galaxy themes, outer space.
It's this piece right here, y'all.
Yeah, that one. I'm smitten with making those because I see that as us. I see us as infinite. I see us as part of the infinite. I see us as the culmination of everybody that came before us, and we are just like a part of the wave of the people that will come after us. And so looking up at the galaxy, looking up at stars, looking up at the sky, it makes me feel small and humble in a way that nothing else does. So I love capturing like this ethereal, magical, larger than life feeling, along with representing women in these pieces, with representing femmes in these pieces. A lot of the times in my art, you'll see a solitary woman or girl in the piece, because we deserve that. And also because we deserve the feeling of safety that comes with that. How many of us feel safe being alone, walking alone, being in the dark alone? And the darkest thing out there is outer space, out in the galaxies. And so it is a way of honoring that, the space, double entendre, the space that we deserve.
I love it. Yes. I love this piece. So what other pieces? This person's not here, correct? So you want to speak on your collection, Rain? Because the middle one, you had already spoke about your piece.
So the lady in blue, like I said, the pieces that Corinne did, she did during a GSP event at the time, for the duration of the show. And I remember being up there that night and kind of seeing her off in the background. And when I finally saw the piece, it was just like, hey, that's me. I don't think she intended on it being that way, but I saw myself in the painting. I saw the essence that I embodied, kind of being on stage, and a lot of my poems being somewhat slightly depressing because
I am a deep poet. But one thing that a lot of people do not know is that when I was about 10, 11, I fell off of a float in the middle of the ocean. And I, to this day, still don't know how to swim, but I'm still here. And in that piece, it was like how I even felt being in that water. Like it was dark, it was, cold. And that was at the point where I realized that my voice just did not work for me at all. So being at the mic and, when I saw this piece, it really just touched my heart. So I had to get that. I am a big advocate of supporting art. Art is how I survive each day. I'm nothing without, the people who add into me with their art, whether it's their words, whether it's their visual expression, music, how it moves. So going over to the next piece, which is the African Goddess. I sometimes get correlated with Storm from the X-Men, and she's an African goddess. But it was like I had kind of just cut all my hair off, so I had the little short fro, and I said, Corinne, you did it again. I don't know how we have this connection. But it was like the tie to the ancestral roots for me, going back home. I actually had the DNA swab for Ancestry.com. So I actually know where some of my African roots are. And it's always just that thing, they tell you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. And I understand that disconnect for a lot of people. They don't have that actual root, that anchor that they could say, this is something that I can hold on to and know for sure this is where I'm from. And I just this is the motherland, and the motherland has a heartbeat, and the motherland has a voice. It doesn't matter how many generations we've been separated. So I definitely had to add this because it was literally the opposite. So they became my pair. And I spoke briefly about the Black Panther done by Jordan Jones, who is no longer in the state of Connecticut, but he is exploring and living his best life, loving his art. And I'm honored to have gotten a piece before he left town. Black Panther is significant for so very many reasons for me. It's one of my favorite big cats. And I'm the female Black Panther in my house because my son is completely in love with T'Challa, knowing that he has a superhero that he can relate to. So now it's we have a Black Panther in the house, and it's kind of him being watched over, and he feels comfortable, he feels safe. And I love how they add to the ambience of our house. It adds to how my children can see themselves and see the outside world. And I think that's one of the biggest parts about art for me is no matter who has done something artistic, we can still all see pieces of ourselves in the art. We are more connected than we believe. We're more, alike than a lot of people want to admit, because society has told us that we had to be strong. Society has told us that we need to handle everything on our own. But I've never seen a foundation stand with just one person. Oh. Yes, my Galaxy Goddess. When I saw Zulinet do the fast motion, details of her doing this painting, I was like, I need to have a version of this in my ownership, because that was literally me, put on the headphones and was just out of this world. Because I tend to feel everything. So I do retreat from people. But it's this is this larger than life essence. It reminds me that I'm part and then nothing at all of this universe. So of course I had to have her commission me a version, and it's personalized because the raindrop in there is specifically on my piece. It is authenticated. I have my certificate of authenticity right behind the painting. I never leave home without it. But I appreciate the artists for not giving up on their craft. I appreciate the artists for standing this matrix with courage and saying, I am here, my voice matters, my art matters, this spirit that's on the inside of me matters. art is amazing for so many different reasons. And yes, that every time I see Miss Alicia's like painting, like, so I have a piece that's not like hers at all. I can't replicate like her personal manifestation of that piece. But there is one that is a little similar to me, and it's from a show. I can't remember, or She's Gotta Have It, I think it is, like Lola, I don't know. Yes. And the painting that she does at the end of season 2, I don't want to have any spoilers. If you're interested, you can definitely go check it out. But it has to do with, women. It has to do with the flag. And so I'm reminded of that part of the show, and then how it actually correlates with a piece that I've actually done, which if you would like to come and see it, if you are in the area of Connecticut, the exhibit is available. You can follow me on social media and get the flyer for that. It's August 24th through the 26th. It's just 3 days to come and check out like my personal art collection that I've done for myself and learn a bit more about me and come out and appreciate some art. So that's like a little plug. I actually did a plug.
So unfortunately, we are coming to the end. So what we want to do is just give our guest panelists here a quick opportunity to once again share who they are, where you can find them, how you can connect with them, and continue to appreciate their work, even reach out to them to work with you, collaborate, and all those other good things. So we're just going to take some time to do that.
Before we get to that, right? Before we get to that, I'm sorry. My cousins, man, they are telling me to say something, right? So I don't really, like I said, I'm not a poet, and I know. So I'm not a poet, but I'm gonna say something real quick though, like with something Jerome said, and I'm gonna mention this. He said, when you walk into a room, he said, give your best, like be the best you can be. I'm paraphrasing, right? So it's a lot of times I do things and I don't put my all into it because it's not something I think that I'm great at, right? But there are things that when I walk in the room, I put my all in. But I think I'm going to try to implement that into everything I do or not do it at all. I think that's my new goal from what you said. So I'm going to say this little piece, right? It's not, I wouldn't call it a poem. It's just a write-in, right? All right. I know I got to say that because you are poets, right? All right, I'm a poet. No, because I need all the blessings I can get. Word up. But anyway, so this one is called Love. It's simple, right? Everybody do poems or songs about love, but this is mine. Love. Love is more than a thought. It's more than a feeling. It stands alone in a group of people. Love has a heartbeat. It pumps to an unknown rhythm of its own. Love is more than 4 little letters. It's more than expression. It's a vibe. It's a vibe unmatched. Love is hope wrapped in the arms of desires. It's passion in the form of possibilities. Love cares in the darkest light, in the darkness of light. Love shines through. Love shines through doubt, and it gives what others won't, what others can't. When society says you aren't good enough, love says you are. Love is life, and life is truly much better with love. Love is worth all the pains and setbacks that came before it. Love is well done. It's whole, and it is at all times absolute. So I ask you to be it, to see it, Enjoy giving it and receiving it. Love is by far our dreams made real and realities mastered. Love is you and I. Love is God. He is love. Practice makes perfect. So let's practice loving each other.
Poet. Poet. So we're giving our information, right? I just want to say, as an artist, as somebody who is actually, I don't even want to say I chose to be an artist. It chose me, honestly. It's not a career that everybody chooses. It's actually a very easy career. Everybody says, starving artist. I have never starved. If you look at me, you could tell I'm not starving. But I really do want to say that tonight, just listening to everybody on the panel, listening to everybody online, I never really thought about pride or being proud, because I just do it because it comes really natural to me. But tonight, just in hearing everybody speak, it makes me feel really proud to be an artist, to be a creator, to be somebody that is expressing in this way. I actually really feel that tonight. Usually I just move through my day and do what I do, but tonight I'm like, damn, I'm proud to be an artist. So shout out to us. Shout out to us. And it's nothing against people who have 9-to-5 jobs. Everybody finds what works for them. And this is a career that I'm telling you, some days I get up and be like, why? Why do like people think that it's cute and it's fun, but it's a really heavy responsibility a lot of days. And so I just want to say shout out to us for continuing to plug away in a world that sometimes doesn't really fully appreciate us. But I do feel like the appreciation is starting to come, and I really am. I'm holding everybody to that because I think it's really important. So my name is Alicia Cobb. My art business is called Art Simplicated. It's simple and complicated because I do all kinds of things. So I merge the words together, and that's what it is. So if you go to artsimplicated.com, you can learn a little bit about me, see more of my work, sign your kids up for some classes. I do all kinds of stuff. And I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram under Art Simplicated or Alicia Cobb. I'm on TikTok, but I don't really know how to use it, so don't look for me there because I'm a little old school. Facebook and Instagram, and my kids tell me it's for old people, and I'm cool with that. So that's where you guys could find me. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, and I'm gonna pass it to the next artist.
Thank you, Alicia. Mr. Jerome G, who are you? What do you do? Where can we find you?
My name is Jerome Geyer, Geyer. You can find me on youtube.com/Jerome, Jerome, Geyer, Geyer. And I'm on, just try your luck. I don't remember what I deleted and what's still active. Wordsmith Ape, WORDSMITHAPE, ape as in primate. I deleted Twitter, so yeah. Anyway, Instagram. I might be on. Yeah, I'm on TikTok. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are like the three things I'm most active on. I'm most active on Instagram, so.
Hey, just to let y'all know, I've done work with this brother. His photography skills. This man has an amazing eye. His videography skills. He has great vision, and he's one of the dopest poets who ever touched a pen. So, yeah. This greatness right here. Zulinette, who are you? Where can we find you? How can we connect with you?
I am Sulinette. I am a social worker who decided to dedicate her life to doing social work through art, poetry, performance. I had to write the list down because I always forget all this shit. I am a podcaster, an author, a workshop facilitator, a speaker, a producer, and a director, and also the baddest motherfucker you'll ever meet. You can, it's just facts. You can stalk me appropriately on Instagram. My handle is @the_Sulinette, spelled like however this little rectangle here says it. You can also support my work. If you can't invite me into your school and give me loads and loads of money, that's cool. You can support me through my Patreon. All you got to do is look up Sulinette. You can buy me a coffee through the app Buy Me a Coffee. My name on there is also Sulinette. Besides that, you could just, again, connect with me on Instagram and we can connect as dope human beings with each other.
Dope. Thank you. Thank you. Michael, sir, who are you? What do you do? How can we find you? How can we connect with you?
I'm a little old school myself. So I am Michael Edge, proud contributor of this book here, Let Us Make a Man, the Black Man's Guide to Creating a Life of Significance, Impact, and Power. Get that for any man you know in your life or just want to reach yourself. I can be reached at d.michael_e@yahoo.com. I did want to drop 2 nuggets, though, as an educator. I feel like for those of you who have kids or nieces or nephews, please think about this. 1, encourage every kid to dream. Back their interests, even when you don't get it. 2, provide them with an opportunity to dream. Take them on vacations. Take them on drives to rivers, to countrysides, to mansions. Allow their mind to expand beyond what they think it can be. Those are the things that allow them to excel as adults. And one last thing, the biggest drop off, you'll hear educators talk about the summer loss. The summer loss really has nothing to do with them being out of school. The summer loss is really created by what exposure you give your kid in those downtimes. The biggest gap you'll see is when kids who family can take them away and expose them to different cultures, different lifestyles. You don't have to leave the country to give your child that. Take them to a different neighborhood. Take them to the park. Allow them to dream about what is possible so that when their opportunity comes, they're ready. I'm Dr. Mike Edge. Peace out.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I appreciate you for being here. I'm looking forward to connecting with you and building with you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So myself, I am Silent Quill, spelled just like that, Silent Quill. You can find me on all social platforms. Silent the Writer, one word, Silent the Writer. I'm a poet, rapper. I do a bit of everything. Ultimately, I enjoy art. That's what that is. Hi.
So it's a good thing we have a microphone today because my voice is a little mousy. So let's give a round of applause for Silent Quill. So I am Lady Obsidian Rain. You can find me on Instagram at Lady Obsidian Rain. You can find me at Facebook at Obsidian Rain 87. I'm showing my age. Don't matter. I'm pretty. And yeah, I want to, also give you guys a round of applause for coming out and hanging out with us this entire time. So give yourselves a round of applause. we're also, we definitely have to let our audience hostess with the mostest. We got to share the mic, right?
Hey y'all, what's up? So I go by the name D True Poetry, and I make it real simple. I'm on every single social media site, D True Poetry. And yeah, I have a book, Broken Silence. What else? What else I got going on? Oh, you know what? Something y'all could do, go to poetsoftheroundtable.com, and we all have bios there. Don't we? Yes. And we have all our handles there. And you guys want to go there, put your email in so you know when the next one is going to happen. So you guys can come on out and support. So give yourselves a round of applause for joining us. Yes, yes, yes. So we're going to end this like, oh, Ty wants to say something. Hi, Ty. You want to say something, Ty? You going to say something else?
Yeah, Fly Tie, Fly Guy. You know, Fly Tie is a conversation about first loving yourself. You can find me. Can I do that? Say that? Yeah, I can throw that. So yeah. So let me start with these cups. So those beautiful tumblers right there. Yeah, no. But Fly Tie is about first loving yourself. It's not an arrogant statement. It's an encouragement for everybody to love yourself first. And I put my name at the end. So you can look me up on all that social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, and yeah, all that. And the website. Give it to her. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you all, beautiful people. Like I said, you find our panelists, Alicia Cobb, Jerome G. You can find Zuli Net, and you can find Michael. You go on Poets to the Roundtable. Their information's up there. Connect with them. They're beautiful people, beautiful artists. They're doing great things. And we thank you all for being here and contributing to our conversation. We wouldn't be great without you guys being great. So thank you.
And if nobody told you today, I want to let y'all know that I love you all for no reason and every reason on purpose. No matter the what, Rain? Rain.
No matter the distance, your status, your color, or your creed, you are loved unconditionally. You guys have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful week. And hopefully we see y'all next month. We're going to have Silent Quill and us out.
Big shout out to Latin Escape for hosting us. Thank you all and good night.